Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about a different topic. It's about the interview process in the tech industry for software engineers. So first of all, I would like to give a disclaimer. Basically, the video that we are going to watch, it serves as a guidance only. Your experience might vary depending on the company and depending on the location, right? And also depending on your level and number of experience in the industry, right? So typically the interview process involves several steps. I outlined some of the important steps here. So it normally starts with a recruiter call, and then the second thing is you might have an optional hiring manager call. So we are going to go through all these steps in detail also, but these are typically the steps. And then you'll have a technical phone screen, and optionally you might have a second technical phone screen also. And if everything goes well after the step 4, right, you will be called for an on-site interview, and then after that you will be informed with the decision. So if they want to move forward with you, right, so you will get an offer, and then you'll have to go through the negotiation process and determining the start date, etc., right? So let's go through each of these steps in detail, right? So recruit call. So recruiter typically will call you. They set up some time, any time between 15 to 30 minutes of your calendar time, and then they describe about the current openings, and they want to validate whether any of the openings have interest for you, and they would like to look about your timelines and whether you are interviewing actively or passively. Do you have any offers outstanding? So things like that. And the other logistics they check upon is work eligibility for any company, and the location that these openings are currently available, if you are willing to relocate, so things like that. So typically this will be a most informal call. If you have anything about the position or the location, those kind of things, recruiters will be able to answer pretty fairly. So once you tell your recruiter that you want to move ahead, and some of the openings that they tell you have any interest for you, so they will go forward and uh, forward the resume to recruiting managers. Basically they are called hiring managers. So after that there might be a manager call. So hiring manager might call you and give you the information about the team and the projects, and any questions you might have, such as team structure, project scope, and what are the business areas that they are working on, and some of the problems they are working on. So they will tell you probably a high level overview, but not like very in detail. And after that, if you have mutual interest, then they will be moving forward basically. So typically this manager call will involve any time between 30 to 60 minutes, depending on the company again. So this is also an optional. So normally some companies do this and some companies don't do it. So this is an optional steps, right? So but majority companies started doing this. Basically once you have the details from the recruiter, right, you might have several questions, because all the job descriptions are very generic. They don't have much information in the job description or whatsoever. So even if you are satisfied with the job description and all, right, my suggestion is to have a informal informational call with managers, so that you will get to know more about the projects and the team, etc., right? So it's a very good idea to have this, even if the companies doesn't have automatically for you. So once you show the interest with the current openings and manager is satisfied with the way that this call goes, right, then you will be invited for a technical phone screen, right? So that is the next step. So technical phone screen will usually involve solving problems and writing the code. Typically they use any of the online editors like CoderPad. In some cases you might have to solve more than one problem, and in some cases you will have to solve one problem, and once you get to the second problem you might not have time, so you might be asked to only explain the solution rather than writing the code, right? So but that again depends on your experience and the company. So typically it will involve 1 to 2 problems. That's what the current industry standard is. So and it might involve optional behavioral questions. So given a situation, how would you take an action? Tell me a situation when something X happened with you, right? So generally these phone screen interviews will take anywhere 45 to 60 minutes of your time. So you will need uh, laptop or a computer with internet connection for this phone screen, because you will be working with an engineer from the company in live, so you'll have to do the live coding basically, right? So once phone screen is done, some companies tend to do even the second phone screen as well. But if all the phone screen interviews go well and if you get a good feedback from the recruiter and all, right, then they will be inviting you to on-site. So on-site interview will typically be full day worth of the interviews. So there can be anywhere between 4 and 6 interviews, right? So there can be anywhere from 4 to 6 interviews. If it is 4 to 6, if it is 4 interviews, probably it is like maybe 10 to 2 or something like that. But if it is 6 interviews, you'll probably go from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So all your day will be gone. Typically you would have to take a leave or something like that from your current company to accommodate the full day on-site interview. So interview panel might involve future teammates, future manager and hiring manager, so several people of that sort, right? So sometimes they involve even the program managers, technical program managers as part of the interview panel, right? So the on-site is like typically a full day business. So depending on the experience, right, the on-site interview will have 2 to 3 coding interviews, 1 to 2 design interviews, 1 to 2 behavioral or deep dive into your experience. So I have seen where all the interviews are design and all the interviews are coding. So I have seen both all design and all coding also. So it will not be a surprise, but yeah, depending on your experience and the level of coding that you are doing and all that, right? So it might vary again. So but typical process is 2 to 3 coding interviews, 1 to 2 design and 1 to 2 behavioral or deep dive into the experience that you have. Basically they will pick some projects in your resume and ask you to go through the designs and implementations, right? So they wanted to see and look into your experience. So each interview might last anywhere between 45 to 60 minutes, right? So sometimes the 4 to 6 interviews will involve a lunch interview and sometimes it may not, right? So if it involves a lunch interview, you might get to ask anything about the company, anything about the project, so those kind of things. But in some cases, you just go with another interviewer where you just talk to him on general topics and you will just kill that 1 hour of time or 45 minutes of time. So that will be not counted towards your any coding or design or behavioral things. So there are companies do in both types. So some companies do lunch interview by asking some serious questions and all, but some companies they don't care about what you talk in the lunch interview, right? So once the on-site is experience is about a week, right? Sorry, about a day, right? But with the current pandemic situation that is across the world, right? With the COVID-19 that is going on, most or all of the companies converted their on-site interview process to remote as well. So you will be typically sitting in front of your home computer, and then you'll need to join any of the platforms which offer like communication, like Skype, Hangouts, or Zoom, Microsoft Teams, things like that, right? So they will make you to switch on your camera, and you will have to directly talk to the person over the internet. So for this also, you will need a computer with internet connection. So everything else will remain same. Basically, the panel and everything will typically remain same, and the number of interviews also typically remain same. But the only thing is you will need you will be sitting at your home as opposed to going to their office, right? One challenge here will be when you are dealing with coding questions, it might be okay, but when you are dealing with the design questions, right, you might be missing the whiteboard. So some companies do offer some whiteboard solutions, but not all. So there is some gap. So you have to be prepared to talk more about the design interviews. Basically, you are losing the capability of drawing the boxes on the whiteboard and connecting them and talking through the block diagrams, right? So that is a challenge here, but hopefully the current pandemic situation goes away very soon, so that we will be back to the normal operations, right? So till then, the companies are moving to the remote on-site interviews, right? So once the on-site interviews complete, right, typically recruiter will reach out to you after 5 to 7 business days with their decision. If all the interviews go well, you will be informed with a offer. In some cases they'll just give you an informal offer. In some cases they'll give you the formal offer, right? So it depends from company to company, but majority of them do the informal offer, and they'll tell you, or they'll ask you about the current compensation, your expectations and all that. After that they will give you an offer, right? So after that, in typical offer, right, so there will be always room for negotiation. First of all, congrats on the offer. If you reach to this far, right, you should pat yourself on your back. So you have achieved one of the good things that are possible, right? And then try to negotiate as much as possible. So typically the compensation at most companies involve base salary, yearly bonus, and stock award. And also some companies tend to do the joining bonus also. This joining bonus will typically range from 1 or 2 years, right? But the other three components, base salary, yearly bonus, stock, they will be for every year that you are going to stay at the company. So once you negotiate the offer and sign the offer, then you will be talking to the hiring manager to determine the start date and those kind of things. That is when once you sign the offer, right, that is when you sign the offer and your start date is determined, you are going to give your current company 2 weeks of notice, right? So that's when 2 weeks is like the normal in the tech industry, at least across the United States. But in some countries it will be anywhere from 1 to 2 months, I heard, right? So you will be giving the notice period, and you'll be serving the notice period in your current company before joining the next company. Hope this high level process cleared up any of your questions. So if you have any questions further, right, please leave them in the comment section. If you like the video and all my other coding interview videos, right, please subscribe and share among your friends.